Roll call.
Parker?
Here.
Misselinich?
Here.
Bergen?
Here.
Zittergruen?
Here.
Chisel?
Here.
Whittle?
Here.
Neal?
Here.
Item 3, public comment. If anyone wishes to make a comment to the council, please feel free to step forward. There's a new sign-up sheet up there as well. Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move on to number 4. We have a mayoral proclamation, May as Walk Bike Month, and I thought April was going to be here.
She
Just pulled in on her bike, I bet.
Here she comes.
Perfect. So we'll just hold off a moment.
Should we all start clapping?
Hi, April. You're actually on the agenda, and we just mentioned it, so feel free to come on up. I don't know if you've caught your breath yet. Yeah, absolutely. So I can fill this in a little bit here with some time. April did contact me recently, so May will be Walk Bike Month, and I believe it was, well, I'll just let you take over, April. I was trying to fill time.
Is Kristen here? No. Oh, she's online? Oh, hi.
No, not Egan.
Oh, different Kristen. Just kidding. Nothing like making an entrance. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me, Mayor Carlson and City Council. I'm here to speak tonight about Walk Bike Month, and I'm so excited that the mayor is going to officially declare May as Walk Bike Month in Decorah. It reflects Decorah's ongoing commitment for health, safety, sustainability, and strong community connections. While there is room for improvement, Decorah is truly one of the most walkable and bikeable towns in the Midwest. We have a strong foundation of trails, sidewalks, bike routes, schools, parks, and vibrant downtown that makes active transportation both practical and enjoyable. Even those who live outside of town of Decorah, we have the opportunity to park once in town and then walk and bike to local destinations, supporting both local economy and quality of life. Because of this foundation, Walk Bike Month is an opportunity to build on what we already have and what we already are doing well, and continue to make walking and biking the norm and not the exception. This May, Safe Routes to School, which I work for, sorry, I'm April from Safe Routes to School, everyone. Safe Routes to School, along with many other community partners, is excited to support a variety of walk bike projects and activities. So I have a few of them I'll show you. The Walk Bike Matrix and Map handout will be available beginning Earth Day Festival, which is this Saturday, and throughout, beyond that as well, helping residents and visitors see just how close destinations really are. And so, let's see. Just kidding, it's right here. So here, Energy District helped with this. It's like a matrix. We're going to try to get it onto a half sheet of paper that just kind of shows if you're here and you want to go there, how long does it take you to walk or bike? And then on the back side of that, we will have this map, which also kind of shows, because there's so many awesome places in Decorah, you can't put them all in the matrix as we tried here, and it's way too big, or the map. So this just kind of gives you a general idea, so you can kind of see where are the places you like to walk and bike to, or that you go to anyways, and you could walk and bike there instead of driving. There will also be distance signage, which also Windistrict District helped with, and the City of Decorah has been a huge help. Show everybody the cool signs. They'll be posted around town at various locations, just kind of showing you some of the places and how long it will take to walk or bike there. So these things can just show you how close destinations really are. We'll also be partnering with the Windistrict Recycling Center and doing the Recycle Your Bicycle again this year, so people can donate their bikes that they're no longer using, with the plan of people just taking them if they need them, otherwise they get recycled and not just thrown in the landfill. So that will be starting on also Earth Day, and then Upper Exploitlands parking lot where I work will have a corner of the parking lot, so you can just take and reuse bikes there as you see fit throughout the month of May. We're also doing a walk bike to school day, which is on walk and roll to school day, which is May 6th. We're working with the library and Park Rec. And there'll be hopefully people coming from their own communities. But if you live further away or you can't walk with your kid to school, where the library is offering that as a place to drop off and walk with your kid to school. So that's really exciting. Park Rec's helping with that as well. And then we're doing a walk bike pizza party and play event on May 16th so that people can walk or bike to Will Baker Park and have some pizza and then just enjoy the outdoors with their family and friends, playing lots of games, face painting, all that kind of stuff. And that's in partnership with Strong Towns and Park Rec. And we're also encouraging walk bike to worship, which is just encouraging people on May 17th to choose active transportation for faith or community gatherings. And then we're also doing walk bike safety courses in PE, which will reach all 3rd and 4th graders. So working with the PE teacher at Carrie Lee to offer that, which is in addition to the 2nd grade bike safety classes that I've done for years throughout all 5 counties in our area. And we give no-cost helmets for students who need them. And then we're working with the police department to create transportation safety videos, which will be released throughout May. And as we head into the summer, we know construction season, as we know, which is what part of the reason it took me a while to get here, is underway. But Walk Bike Month is a great opportunity to be intentional about walking and biking instead of driving when possible. This will help reduce traffic congestion during detours and road work. And we also want to remind everyone, especially drivers, to be extra careful in and around construction zones and watch for people walking and biking and avoid speeding through those detours. None of this work happens alone. We thank the City of Decorah, Park and Rec, Police Department, Decorah Schools, Strong Towns, Windischik County Recycling, and of course, Windischik Energy District for their partnership and support. By declaring and celebrating Walk Bike Month, Decorah continues to lead by example, recognizing both our strengths and our opportunities, and investing in a healthier, safer, and more connected community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, April.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 5, City Manager, Department Head, Council reports.
All right, so one thing I want to point out, the flats, I've talked about the fiber to the premises project and the notices that went out for house surveys, those letters, postcards that have gone out, and now door hangers. Now's the time if you want, Alex, let's go for the picture. All right. I'll wait for you, Denise. All right. So if you have not yet responded to these house survey letters, postcards that have gone to you, it is not to solicit for fiber yet. As we're building out the system, it's really important to know, if you have a finished basement especially, which side of the house to bring that internet service to. So even if you have no intentions of bringing on the city's fiber, which have $59.95 a month residential, you'd be crazy not to. So even if you have no intentions of doing so, the construction is going to happen to the house, and we just want to make sure it's done on the side that makes sense for your basement. Please respond to those.
What if people haven't received them?
So they should have received 3 letters or 2 letters and a postcard in the flats. So remember,
Only in the flats.
It's rolling.
Thank you.
So that leads me to my next. Now, just today, the next zone, the first set of letters have gone out for the next zone. So this is going to be kind of the Montgomery, it'd be just southeast of the flats. The plan is that the build out will be kind of in a spiral pattern that'll circulate around downtown. We're not going to have downtown construction until after Nordic Fest. We figured there's already enough orange throughout this entire town. We don't need more orange downtown during Nordic Fest. So anyway, please respond to those letters. That information is very important to make sure we build it out efficiently. Next thing I have, a reminder of the work session Monday, next week, Monday, the 27th, 5:45 for discussion on the new fire station municipal building project. This is going to come up with later actionable items on the council agenda for tonight, but looking at possibly a standalone special meeting at 5 o'clock to take some of the actions related to the school easements that it's expected they'll be granting next Monday around noon. So I know some of you have a harder time making 5 o'clock work. I'd like to try and do that so that we can hold those and then transition to 5:45, that dedicated work session. Does that work?
Next
Will
Monday.
there be representatives of rural fire at that?
They have been invited to
Okay,
that
great.
work
Thanks.
session. Now, I will point out, it's been really wet the last couple of weeks, and this week's supposed to dry up pretty good. I don't know how many of them are going to be here next week on Monday and how many might be in the field, so just keep that in mind as well.
Thanks.
Those are the two things I had.
Any other department heads have anything to share? Nothing? All right. Council?
I've got one, Mayor. Some students at Luther, the Luther Student Biking Association, and some others are organizing a community-wide bicycle ride called Decorah, probably Decorah actually, if you think about it. Yeah, it's because for Decorah, yeah. So it's very, very clever portmanteau, and it's a Decorah on May 2nd, and it's in the morning. So this is an encouragement to all of you to participate. You don't need to ride a bike to participate. The nice thing about this is it's explicitly advertised as not a race. And in my experience, those are the easiest races to win when they advertise that way. So if you want more information, this is going to be posted somewhere up in City Hall, or you can get a hold of me. This is a great way to not just show encouragement to our community's active users of our pathways and routes, but also to our Luther student population. So I invite you to join me, and I want to also give a shout out to the police department. They're going to try to have representation there if possible, and I think Johanna's already interested in engaging, so maybe we can have a nice contingent there. But Travis, we won't talk business.
That's May 2nd, 9 a.m., correct? 9:30?
The ride starts at 10, registration starts at 9
Okay.
at the Luther College Bell.
A few weeks back, Councilperson Shizzle and I met with members from the county to talk about AI data centers. Alameda County has just passed a really innovative ordinance regarding AI data centers, and Winnebago County is looking at a mirror plan with some possible changes that fit more in line with Winnebago County. When I talked to Travis a little bit about it, and it was suggested that the city also come up with their own AI data center ordinance related to the building of data centers. I reached out just to a couple members of P&Z to see if they would take it up, but I would hope that council will join me in making sure that this happens in a timely manner. Around the state, these things are coming up, and I think cities have been caught off guard without a policy. So I think we need one, and so I encourage both P&Z and council and city staff, if everybody else is shaking their head, that we should make sure this is something that we get done pretty soon.
I just want to put a shout out for this Friday, the Decorah Area Chamber Gala. It's happening at Impact Coffee again this year. This event supports the operations of the Decorah Area Chamber nonprofit, enabling the organization to continue serving area businesses, the community, and visitors with a high level of excellence. This year's theme is Clue, like the board game. Dress code is formal / black tie / elevated costumes. Tickets are available. You can get them at the Chamber website, and it looks to be a good time and a way to support all the hard work that the Chamber does for Decorah. So, hope to see you there.
Quick announcement for the Earth Day Festival is Saturday, April 25th, 9 to noon at the Winnebago County Fairgrounds. Our Decorah Sustainability Commission contributed some funds to support this event and will be tabling there. And I think that other city departments are going to participate in that as well. So feel free to stop by. There's excitement about just showing off some of the things that we do behind the scenes to support taking care of our earth. And the event is great and often packed, so encourage folks to come.
Anyone else? Council? I just wanted to throw it out there that Travis and I were able to meet with some of Ashley Hinson's staff last Tuesday. Brittany Zumbach Carroll, Reagan Kozak, and Pedro Calderon were nice enough to take the time to speak with us with regards to our Social Security office. There had been some rumors floating around that it had been closed. They told us that they have been working and at least talking to the Social Security Administration, and that it has not been staffed since October, and they've been struggling to find someone to staff it, so we're trying to be proactive and keep that conversation going. And we know it's a vital service to many of our residents, so we'd like to maintain that and keep that open. Hopefully Pedro will be up here, I think April 27th, he said, right, Travis? Maybe to our work session. So hopefully we can keep that conversation going and keep it open. So we're doing our best that we can there. Okay? Thanks for everyone else for sharing. Travis, can we move on to number 6, the consent agenda, if you could give me a rundown?
All right. Item A, minutes of the February 13, 2026 special meeting, April 6, 2026 public hearing special meeting, and April 6, 2026 council meeting. B, claims. C, Class C retail alcohol license updated ownership amendment, Pulpit Rock Brewing Company, LLC. D, Class C retail alcohol license renewal with outdoor service, Dixie's Beer Garden. E, resolution setting public hearing on fiscal year 2026 amendment. F, resolution setting public hearing on amending Title 17 zoning of the Decorah Municipal Code, Section 17.68.050, 17.72.050 regarding minimum lot widths. There should be another section there. 17.68.050, 17.72050, and 17.76.050. G, resolution approving change order number 7 for the Decorah Airport Terminal with attached corporate hangar project. H, resolution approving change order number 8 for the Decorah Airport Terminal with corporate hangar project. I, resolution approving change order number 9 for the Decorah Airport Terminal with attached corporate hangar project. And J, resolution approving change order 10 for the Decorah Airport Terminal with attached corporate hangar project. K, change order number 1 for the Carlson Park Gateway Trail project. L, change order 2 for the Carlson Park Gateway Trail project. And M, change order number 3 for the Carlson Park Gateway Trail project. N, Nordic Fest special event application for July 23rd, 2026 through July 25th, 2026. O, approval of pay application number 1 for Decorah Athletic Complex. P, approval of mayoral appointment for SMID, Jarita Bollock-Burrison. And Q, approval of detour signage quote from Iowa Plains Signing, Inc., which that updated quote has been added to Dropbox at $21,200. And I'll point out all of those change orders. Those two are associated with grant funds, so each respective agency has to review those before they get sent back to us for approval. That's why there's 4 from the FAA airport project and 3 from the DOT Carlson Park project.
Any questions, or can I get a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
I'd make a motion for approval of the consent agenda as drafted.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Masilinich, seconded by Whittle. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Masilinich?
Aye.
Whittle?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Zittergruen?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Neal?
Hi.
Approval of the consent agenda passes unanimously. Item number 7, conduct public hearing on proposed fiscal year ending 2027 budget. Travis, you want to give some background?
Sure, so I'll go ahead and give the background for 7, which is the public hearing, and then the actionable item number 8 on the agenda. So, public hearing and notice is required by Iowa Code prior to the adoption of a city's budget. This public hearing was set at the April 6th meeting and was published in the April 9th edition of the Decorah Leader. No written comments or objections have been received at this time. The budget's been drafted as a result of workshops, council meetings for fiscal '27. State code requires the city to certify its budget prior to April 30th, so we need to take action on this. The proposed budget has a total levy of 15.52157. That's down from 16.17306 from fiscal '26. Total property tax dollars levied is $7,346,717. That is up from $6,794,456 for fiscal '26.
All right, thank you, Travis. At this time, I'll open the public hearing for the proposed fiscal year ending 2027 budget. Seeing none, hearing none, close the public hearing on proposed fiscal year ending 2027 budget. Item 8, consider resolution approving proposed fiscal year ending 2027 budget.
I make a motion that we approve the proposed fiscal year budget.
Second.
Okay, motion by, oh, I'm sorry, Emily,
Nope.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Motion by Neal, seconded by Masilinich. Any further discussion?
No, I just want to say hats off to city staff and everyone who worked on the budget. Fantastic. And just to reiterate to residents that your property tax levy, the property tax amount has gone down this year. And I think that's to the good credit and good work of the city, so thank you. Right, our work went down. The levy went down. The assessed value, which is not on us, did not go down. I think that's a really important distinction, so thanks, Randy. People are always in Decorah saying, our taxes are so high, our taxes are so high. Some of that we control, right? And we have done our due diligence to work to make sure that the budget reflects our priorities, and in so have lowered the tax levy. The part we do not control, the assessed value of your house, is not within our purview. So as your house value increases, we don't have any control over that.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I guess I do. I reached out to Travis about this, about the assessed levy for the emergency management dispatch services. Kind of curious on that. I mean, from what I believe is that it's not emergency management, that it's going to go to the county sheriff's office. So I did have some questions as far as we're using a special levy through emergency management avenue when it's really not going to go to emergency management anymore. It's going to go to the county. So I just had some questions, and I don't know if this maybe clarifies some of that up right now.
So I've been clear from the get-go on the one meeting that the EMA Commission has had on that we as a city need to maintain a 2080 agreement with EMA to providing the dispatching. I believe what they're going to structure it is the EMA is going to turn around and have a 2080 agreement or a similar agreement with the sheriff's office to provide essentially supervision and day-to-day. EMA will still continue to own the equipment itself and be responsible for dispatching to the city of Decorah, but the oversight will be provided from the SO, is my understanding. And those are all agreements that are still being drafted at this point.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and I just want to kind of get it out there clear. I think it's fantastic that the sheriff's office is taking dispatch. I think it's great that emergency management has dispatch. That's not where I'm kind of concerned. It just feels like a weird, mildly shady way to kind of transfer funds around and still. And I've always been pretty vocal about us paying over six figures for dispatch services anyways. I mean, if you look at a community our size anywhere, I challenge anybody to see whether or not they have a comparable rate than we do. For the most part, if it's a county dispatch service, the county levies for it. If it's emergency management dispatch, emergency management levies for it. So our over six-figure contribution just has always been on to me, and I just have never really been a fan of it.
In that you think we contribute too much.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, if you look at, you know, and I've done research about it in the past and go through, if you research out, like, you contact Charles City, you contact Waverly,
Grimes, all of those comparable cities that are our size, plus even bigger, usually don't pay a lot, if anything, for dispatch. I mean, our chief came from Marshalltown. Marshalltown's a considerably bigger town than we are. They pay nothing for dispatch. Their emergency management levies for it. It does not come out of their budgets, right? And so I just think kind of what we have is odd, and I just really kind of hope that if it's a county service, it's a county service, let the county levy for it. I don't know what the gain is. Maybe it's coming through us, which saves the county some levy potential. Maybe assuming that's probably what the benefit is for the county. But at the end of the day, I think it's a county service, it needs to be levied by the county.
I feel like this would, this is the first I'm hearing of it, and I think it would be great to know a little bit more, especially before we think about it in this year. But I don't know if there's a quick, what's driving our costs higher. I also want to clarify what I think I'm hearing is that there's both the emergency levy but also a county levy for emergency management services. And are you saying that most communities do just the county levy and not a city levy?
Yeah, so if you go to other counties, if the county sheriff's office has dispatch, that's a county levy. I mean, that's the dispatches, that budget comes out of the sheriff's office. That's county levy from dispatch. I'm not saying that there are communities that help pitch in for that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Over 6 figures is not one of those cost figures.
Do they have a separate police dispatch then? Or the police dispatch just uses the county levy without a 2080 agreement?
Yeah, there's just there's 2080 agreement that they just provide dispatch services.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was always for using the levy for emergency management. If it was going to emergency management, it just feels like it's kind of a game play to make sure that we tap into emergency management funds to utilize those funds to give to the county to supplement. I mean, it just if we're 2080 agreement for dispatch services with emergency management, their 2080 agreement with the sheriff's office to run it, it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, that just, if you really stop and think about it, it's like, well,
Sounds a little bit like our rural fire predicament too.
why don't we just give the sheriff's office the funds? Well, we can't, because the money we're tapping into is emergency management. And so why doesn't the county just levy all the citizens for the funds that cost for dispatch services? And then if there's a cost associated with that, then come to the city of Decorah at that point. You see what I'm saying? I just think it's weird, and I know right now this is kind of starting, so we really don't know what's going to happen. I just think that I hope in the future that we kind of figure out a proper way to manage that.
And if this negotiation is just starting, it's a good time to bring it up because maybe,
sure.
well, as the sheriff's office and emergency management structure this agreement, it would be good for the city to weigh in on this so that we are not paying more as city residents for a service that we're already paying for as county residents.
Yeah, and it's always been a kind of a mystery formula that I'll be honest with you, I've never really kind of gotten how that works. But I challenge, call communities. It's public record, how much you pay for dispatch. And they'll tell you. A lot of times it'll be like, we pay nothing, the sheriff covers it. It's a county service that the sheriff covers.
Thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate that.
Yep.
I was unaware of that.
So.
And, obviously our situation in having a police department is different than some of the other municipalities in the county, but presumably do other cities in the county levy their residents for dispatch, or that's just all tucked into the county levy for them?
Yeah, that's just all kind of,
Yeah.
It's different for us, which makes me, it's just always been a question mark.
Yeah,
And Decorah's size, there's an argument of, well, the amount of calls that come out of the city of Decorah and they got to dispatch those. At the end of the day, those 911 emergency calls have to be dispatched anyways by law because all that stuff is paid for by E911 funds. You picking up the phone and through your phone fees. It's other services associated with the operation that I think is what we're paying for that is just, it's always been a question mark. And back in the day when the dispatch used to be with the city of Decorah, yeah, it was a 50-50 split because Decorah can't tax the entire county. So there was there was that way that it was back then, because at the time, that's why I went to emergency management, to make it more inclusive and wholesome and county broad, which is great. I'm not saying that shouldn't happen. I think it should have. And to be honest with you, I think the sheriff's office is probably even a little bit more appropriate spot for that dispatch service. I think it'll do good. The thing is that I think the revenue stream that we're getting to pay for that is weird to me, and why not that they just levy for that? I don't know. And so those are the questions that I've had.
Yeah, and the thing that we're running up to right here, right now, is obviously this isn't something we're going to be able to address and fix while discussing the whole budget, tonight.
Correct.
However, it's equally sort of not helpful to just keep going along to get along, kicking the can down the road, and every year we end up paying a disproportionately higher percentage as Decorah residents for the same services that everyone else in the county is receiving at a smaller rate. So I'm really glad you brought attention to it. I understand that this agreement is one of many, many agreements and a patchwork of relationships with various other, governments and quasi-government entities around. It's like, they all kind of inform each other a little bit. You can't just say, well, this is unfair without taking into account the whole picture. At the same time, I hope staff is hearing us that this is maybe a place that we'd like to ensure that Decorah residents are getting a fair shake. And when we're in these discussions going forward, I think pointing out that, hey, the status quo here is not reflected in most other communities like this, that's worth pointing out. Thanks.
Any other comments? All right, motion by Neal, second by Masilinich. Roll call.
Neal?
Aye.
Misilinich?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Zittergruen?
Aye.
Chisel? Aye. Whittle?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
All right, resolution passed unanimously. Item 9, conduct public hearing on the vacation of and subsequent conveyance of Claiborne Drive, Parcel 1. Travis, you want to give some background on 9 and 10?
Yep. So I will give background 9 and 10 together, 9 being the public hearing required by Iowa Code. Item 10 is the actionable for council. So public hearing required by Iowa Code prior to consideration of disposal of city-owned real estate. This public hearing was set at the April 6th meeting. It was published in the April 9th edition of the Decorah Leader. No written comments have been received at this time. And the proposed resolution would reaffirm the vacation and conveyance of the area in the southwest quadrant of the intersection of Claiborne Drive and State Street that was former right-of-way prior to the intersection being reconstructed and squared up. There is a water main through the parcel, and the school has set a public hearing on granting an easement through this parcel if it is conveyed. The vacation is a restating of what was part of Ordinance 1172 back in 2015, where anecdotally, I've been told was going to be conveyed to the school to rectify that right of way. The Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval contingent upon the granting of a water easement through the parcel.
All right, at this point, I will open up the public hearing on the vacation of and subsequent conveyance of Claiborne Drive, Parcel 1. Hearing none, seeing none, I will close the public hearing on the vacation of and subsequent conveyance of Claiborne Drive, Parcel 1. Move on to item number 10, consider resolution approving the vacation of and subsequent conveyance of Claiborne Drive, Parcel 1.
I'd move for approval with the contingency.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Chisel, seconded by Masilinich. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Chisel?
Aye.
Misilinich?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Zittergruen? Whittle?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
All right, resolution passes unanimously. Moving on to item 11, conduct public hearing on vacating the storm sewer easement for the Decorah Community School District. Travis, would you like to give some background on 11 and 12?
So I'll give 11 and 12 together. They're loosely related, but they are not. 12 is not an actionable item that requires a public hearing, but
I'm
they
sorry.
are kind of similar,
Sure.
similar in nature. So 11 is a public hearing required by Iowa Code prior to the consideration of disposal of city-owned real estate. This also includes interest in real estate, such as an easement. The public hearing was set at the April 6th meeting, published in the April 9th edition of Decorah Leader. No written comments or objections have been received at this time. There was an action that was planned to occur after this hearing. It's being delayed as the Decorah Community School District was not able to grant a new easement prior to this meeting. So item 12, it's not the direct action associated with this public hearing for 11. It's kind of a substitute, stopgap, if you will.
Okay.
So I will give, that'll be a separate background.
Sure. Okay. Sounds good. This time I will open the public hearing on vacating the storm sewer easement for the Decorah Community School District. If anyone wishes to speak on that. Seeing none, hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Moving on to item 12, consider temporary storm sewer agreement with Decorah Community School District. Travis, if you want to.
Yes, so the city has an existing storm sewer easement and storm sewer pipe. That's the hearing we just held on the possible vacation between Hively Street and Claiborne Drive through the new elementary school site. The school district has not been able to grant a new easement in the approved site location prior to this meeting. This proposed agreement would allow the school district to connect the new storm sewer pipe that's been installed that does not yet have an easement and not yet been accepted as public infrastructure, but allow the connection to our existing storm sewer at Hively and remove the existing storm sewer pipe that runs through that easement. This allows the construction progress to continue with the pad to the northwest portion of the building to continue, but retains that easement so that prior to the issuance of a building permit, that easement's still in place. They can't get a building permit yet. As a note, staff, and I do want to note this because there is another thing hanging out there on the building permit issuance. Staff is still waiting for the state's review of the building prior to the issuance of a building permit as well.
Okay.
So to be clear from my understanding, we're going to essentially vacate our easement, but they can't get a building permit until we have a new one in place.
We won't vacate the easement yet.
Okay, we're going to keep the easement, but they can keep building, they can keep progress going, but they can't get the actual building permit to build on top of it until the state review and we have a new easement with a new stormwater system.
At least this new easement, and yes, we need the state
Okay.
review back. But as far as meeting that contingency, this will simply allow them to remove the pipe from the existing easement. Easement's still in place,
Got it.
but they can continue to build the pad, but they can't get the actual building permit till we have the new easement in place.
Okay.
Can I get a motion? Any further discussion?
And again, I do want to emphasize this is meant to be a stopgap. There is a time limitation of 1 year in there, but in all actuality, we expect this to be next week.
Right.
A resolution, hopefully just next week, a resolution to this.
I move the agreement.
Second.
All right, motion by Zittigruen, seconded by Whittle. Any further discussion?
Just what I'll repeat what I said to Travis in an email already. I appreciate staff's responsiveness to keeping this construction project on schedule. I think that doing what we can to make continued progress possible is in the public's interest, and so I'm glad that we're taking these steps, and really grateful for the extra work that it's meant for staff to make this happen.
Roll call?
Zittergruen? Aye. Whittle?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Mrs. Linich?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Item 13, consider resolution authorizing installation of traffic control devices at the intersection of Water Street and Court Street. Travis, you want to give some background?
Yes, so City Code Section 10.44.010 requires the council to designate traffic signals at an intersection by resolution. So at the March 16th meeting, the Court Street and Water Street intersections traffic controller was discussed, and the council expressed desire to not replace the damaged controller, bag the lights, and install one stop sign at Court Street. Staff stated that this would have to come back as a resolution, so now here we are back. The proposed resolution, however, has two different options. One option adopts the current setup with one stop sign on Court Street and Water Street having none. The other option is a result of two members, Mayor Carlson and Councilmember Bergen, expressed desire to see 3 stop signs on the agenda. Staff has also received a suggestion from the Highway 9 contractor to consider placing all intersections on Water Street to flashing red lights, allowing a combination of avoiding long vehicle queues at red lights, waiting for the light to change, while still maintaining pedestrian safety of a forced stop at each intersection. Another consideration of this setup would maintain a consistent all-way stop at every intersection downtown, avoiding the current issue of a combination of functioning lights, non-functioning lights, which flash red, and the Court Street intersection with through traffic on water.
Thanks for all these options. I was glad to see it on the agenda because that was going to be my comments, that I think Water Street is kind of a mess. It's a hot mess right now, to say the least. I think the combination is super hard for people. I think so many people run that red flashing light and then stop at the red brick and then are like, wait, there's nothing here. And then there's a light and it's like, it is a little too combo-y. And given the red brick on Court Street, I think we have to have stop signs there because that red brick indicates to pedestrians, you have the right of way and you should go. And without any stopping by cars, that is a really unsafe intersection at this point. It's also nearly impossible to get off Court.
Yes.
And that is
In a car.
Yeah, in a car, which is super frustrating. I don't think people are going to learn to go around. Court is a pretty utilized street because you're going by the courthouse. So I applaud us for trying something, but I think we need to do something different.
Yeah, so I'd like to speak in support of 3-way stop signs at Court and Water. One of the amazing things about our town is that we have a knitting store, which is impressive for a small town, and people knit in the window all day long. And so, for example, on one day, the knitters counted 4 cars that stopped for pedestrians. They unfortunately did not count how many cars didn't stop, but I hope that you all assume with 1,000 cars going through that intersection every day that 4 is a little. And in my own experience, it just, even if I see a car slowing to stop for me, I struggle to trust that they are actually going to stop from both directions. And my vision for downtown Decorah is walkability #1. People on streets, crisscrossing, being able to access businesses. So would love to see stop signs there. And then who is our Highway 9 contractor?
It's a project manager from Wix Construction that made this suggestion.
Yeah, that was the most vaguely worded thing on our agenda
Well, I
today.
couldn't remember his name, and I was trying to be nice. And
I also appreciate that idea, the consistency. I've been calling it the Decorah game. Our new game is every intersection asks you to do something different. Can you stay on your toes? And so my concern about that is that for consistency, we would be returning to the question of, do we want to replace the box that got run over? Is that true? Because we don't have lights at this intersection without investment.
they do, but that controller's going to fail. The cabinet and stuff's been hit. They still function, right, Mike? But the cabinet itself was hit and damaged, and so replacing it was gonna be a $20,000 cost to replace the cabinet and the controller.
Yeah.
So they still function for now, but it's all wrapped up in cellophane and caution tape, I think, at this current point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So so I think what you're saying is that for long-term consistency, if we wanted blinking signals throughout Water Street, the controller would eventually fail, and we would need to replace that.
So we could set them to everything blink. I mean, it does overnight, every night, where the traffic signals blink. We could set them to all blink red throughout Water Street, and that would bring consistency. We could leave the stops. There's only one installed at the current point. if the council wants, we could order the installation of the other 2 stop signs, which would still create a stop at every intersection on Water Street. Not quite as consistent as flashing red the entire way, but consistent that you have to stop regardless. So those are kind of 2 trains of thought on how to maintain that consistency throughout Water Street.
Great, that's very helpful.
So that would make, if we followed the suggestion of the Highway 9 coordinator, that would make
Dave, one more time
mechanic,
for me, John. Dave Clark. Dave Clark.
that would also make river and mechanic blinking red. I mean, I assume that you're meaning from like,
Right, the whole
Yeah.
stretch of water.
yeah, I mean, those are, I feel like those need to be full-on lights.
The very end one
Yeah.
at Decorah Bank. I don't disagree.
Yeah,
I feel
there's a
neutral
lot of
about
I mean, I can imagine a lot of frustration at that light if you're just sitting there waiting for Water Street traffic to,
I mean, one thing is if we're switching to blinking, that seems to be an easier test, right, than pulling lights or stop
Yep.
signs. That intersection, 1, very affected by construction right now. 2, very affected by school being in session and school not being in session. So we might not know next week, right?
Right.
If a 4-way stop there helps or hurts traffic
Right.
flow.
but blinking red turns everything to a 4-way stop.
Correct.
And drivers aren't always patient. I did witness over the weekend an older lady kind of run across the street and just holler out. She didn't know I was on council, I don't think. Just like that she was so nervous about the blinking lights going from the consistent stoplights to the blinking because the motorists just, they stop for a little bit and then they cruise through. I still think that the stop signs are better than the lights, but consistency, what everyone's saying, that's what I'm feeling too. So, and the additional stop signs, adding the 2 to the intersection, I'm also for. So, if we were ever to go back to the stop signs, I would try to think of something that would slow motorists down to a longer stop, but that's all I have to say about that.
If we moved, you're saying that stop signs,
If it-
literal stop signs.
Yeah, if they were, yeah,
Versus lights.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the lights, how we're talking now of blinking, just something to take note of, that motorists are less patient, obviously, with the shorter stops, so.
Yeah.
But that would be similar to the stop sign though, right?
Yeah. Sorry, it was kind of a
You know, and
rambler.
I think I talked about it last time, I was a stoplight person, and it's not because I think it's, to be honest with you, I think it's awful driving through downtown, hitting all the stoplights, it's miserable, to be honest with you.
You got time
On
it better.
purpose.
But at the end of the day, what I appreciate about the stoplights, and anybody can argue the stop signs, it's a stop and go. Not everybody's paying attention to who wants to cross the street, right? It's stop, go. What I like about the stoplights downtown is, in our summers, it's just full of people, and it's a for sure stop for people to cross safely, opposed to Frogger people that want to stop and go or let people cross. And I just think it's, the stoplights, as much as they are kind of most not ideal, I do think that it is very pedestrian friendly for downtown. Forcing that person to long stop and wait, having that walk sign. We have it even kind of that first ring around downtown where we specifically keep everybody at a stop to let people start walking first. I just think it's not great for motorists, but I do think it's great for the pedestrians.
And that came up last week in our betterment meeting with the downtown business owners. They said the same thing.
And
We just spent $20,000 to put in temporary detour signs for a few months here through the summer. I'm for putting the 3-way stop in at this intersection for right now, but I would like to see us go back, spend the $20,000, get the lights fixed, so that we do have safe crossings for people downtown. When you have a walk light, you can go. It's just safer all around.
And I was someone who was pretty adamant about stop signs downtown, and I have changed my tune since since this trial. I do think that the stoplights have better pedestrian safety. I think it's really easy to run those blinking red lights.
Yeah. So again,
think-
I admit, miserable for the driver.
It is, but
Great for the pedestrian, and we want pedestrians downtown.
yeah, I mean, I,
think
saw
this is
lots of people run that blinking red light, and I almost ran it myself. Where you're like, wait, what's happening? And I think some of it's just confusion about what's happening because it's new. But a stop sign, like Brent says, is like one person walks, one person drives, one person walks, one person drives. Whereas when it's a stop light, you get pedestrians moving and traffic sits.
And pretty soon, Hively is going to be a pretty nickel.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, you're going to be able to bypass downtown and a lot nicer road.
I think this is a tough issue in particular because a lot of times we talk about things where there's clearly experts that we can point to and get their opinions, but when it comes to designing downtowns, everyone thinks that they're an expert.
For sure.
And that includes me, and that includes probably all of us, and it certainly includes a lot of members of the community. We all think we know what would work best. I want to applaud us for trying something and realizing, hey, this isn't the right solution. Let's try something else. I'm glad Randy's open to hey, let's look at this after the construction season is over and see if there's a best practice to identify. My encouragement would be, yeah, we should come up with the right solution for the construction season. It sounds like we have circled the drain on that a little bit. It sounds like we're coalescing on a plan for this year. Longer term, though, I want to encourage the council to remember that this is actually an area where there are people who have expertise in designing downtowns for accomplishing council goals. And it's not city managers, it's not engineers, and it's not council members. It's members of the city planning profession. It's community design members. And I think if for a decision of this importance, in addition to consulting community members and asking staff and us what we think, I think it would behoove us to remember that there's other expertise out there as well, and we should consult it to determine, hey, what works best for communities like ours, trying to accomplish what it is that we think is best for a vibrant, walkable downtown that's open to people and convenient to go through when you need to. So, no matter what we do, we're not going to please everyone. But I think the wrong thing is to start out with what's my opinion, and then how do I convince everyone else that my opinion is the right one? And the right thing is to say, hey, other people have tried a lot of this stuff. There's probably some wisdom out there. Let's tap into it. In the meantime, I do like the idea of stopping traffic on Water and Court. That was a mistake, and I'm sorry that I advocated for it.
So if I may interject real quick, I want to get to a comment Randy made on the stoplight. So remember, the stoplight itself is still functional at this time. We are expecting it to fail since the controller was hit and the components of it are 30 years old. So that 20,000 was to replace the controller, but it's still functioning at this time. So if the general consensus of council is we want to go back to that intersection functioning, we want to authorize the expense of 20,000. I'll have to put it back on the agenda the next time where you can authorize it, unless John thinks this is enough public notice for them to take action based on the agenda. This was ordering the construction of traffic control devices at this intersection. It's probably enough. I think so. So if the council wants to make a motion to authorize it was 20,000, right, Mike? 19.6. For that replacement cost, you can take that at this meeting in this item if you want. Another piece of information I want to point out, because while bit anecdotal, it's factual based. The last significant, or to my knowledge, any level of pedestrian accident we had on Water Street was at State and Water when the pedestrian had the go-ahead and walk signal and they were smoked in the intersection pretty impressively. We have it on video. So just pointing that out as well.
To help discussion, I'm not interested in approving the cost for the controller tonight. I don't know where others stand, but just being clear about that. And thanks, Steve, for the yeah, we all have opinions of one and we sound like experts. Because I'm actually really curious, like I appreciate your comments, Brent, and I also I think human behavior and pattern and time and learning may actually find that downtown with all stoplights and consistency, or stop signs and consistency, may become more pedestrian friendly. And I to your point, Steve, I don't know that right now. But I think about other small towns with artsy downtowns and lack of stoplights. And part of that is my vision for Decorah.
Is there, I'm sorry,
That's fine.
I was gonna say, is there a way to put crossing buttons on the stoplights downtown if they're gonna be flashing, that if pedestrians needed to get across, they could hit it, everything would go red to stop everything while they cross?
I'm gonna guess that it's gonna be a significant infrastructure cost.
Okay, wasn't sure, I was just gonna ask.
Good question, though.
Yeah, it's a fun question.
When you're at a stop sign, pedestrians always have the right of way. So if you sit
We
until
have
the
the-
pedestrians go,
We
so
have the right of way.
I mean, I am okay not approving, like, I have switched my tune in my mind. I want to see stoplights downtown. I am also willing to just keep trying the experiment to see if those stop signs do change. I do think that we then need to make sure that there's a stop sign at every intersection, that there's a stop.
Correct, yeah.
Especially if there's red brick, because that is so confusing.
What do we all think then about this summer, that we want to stop traffic at every intersection, flashing red lights?
I
Is
mean,
that-
my proposal, yeah, I would love to see flashing red lights everywhere, open to discussion about the bank intersection. Turn the lights on at Court and Water and have them blink until they stop working, at which point put in stop signs. Reconsider post-construction of this summer.
I think there should be a full-on stoplight at the bank.
Yeah, did our unnamed Dean Clark have an opinion about that? Dave?
Dave Clark 5.
So, I will, while state does see higher traffic volumes, it's also worth noting that in 2 weeks, those volumes are gonna decrease fairly dramatically. And then pick back up a little bit in the summer, but still not see those peak traffic flows at, 7:45 and 3:10. But
It's just
that
without,
is no doubt well, I shouldn't say no doubt. Actually, a mechanic, I'm gonna look at John and Mike. Highest traffic count intersection on Water, is it State or is it Mechanic? Mechanic, yeah.
with Hively though, that's sort of the flats way out of that area. There's no Hively, there's no Claiborne.
A lot of us use Riverside,
Okay.
and you avoid State altogether.
or whatever John is called there. Like, it changed his name 7 times on the way down. I'm intrigued even by the possibility of a flashing light stop at State. I think I'm getting by the bank. And my reason is, again, like a lot of the times when I'm stopped there, I'm not like fourth in line. I'm first in line. I'm just waiting for the light to change. I suspect that, like in many other places, there's maybe less traffic than we sometimes think there is, and that a flashing light might get traffic through. However, I would want to give staff the right to switch that one back to a signal if we start seeing queuing form. And so that would be my proposal, is we give some staff discretion on that intersection and try flashing lights everywhere to start with, but switching to signalizing that State intersection if staff thinks that makes the most sense. I'm curious, though, what staff thinks about this idea, or what we're talking about. Like Travis and John, what are y'all thinking?
So when I looked over at John and Mike with the State versus Mechanic, I know we've had a lot of conversations around Mechanic, and especially the lane widths there, how there's a straight through and a left turn that sometimes people confuse the left turn for the straight through, which makes it really interesting when you're trying to go too wide through that intersection. But that might be another one we'd want to pay attention to make sure that doesn't result in queuing up to the south on Mechanic Street. Usually the north side of that intersection doesn't see as much traffic, but doable, I would think so, as a kind of a gut reaction. And I do walk a decent amount downtown as well. So
Are you proposing taking out the right straight lane and just making it a single lane to go?
I would not at this point if we're
If you're
looking
going
at
to
a,
stop- a flashing stop though, wouldn't that make the most sense? So that you just got one car to
Yes.
deal with on both ways?
if
Yeah.
we do that, it would create less confusion. It would likely result in a much further queuing up to the south on Mechanic. It would make it certainly easier for people to pull up to the intersection, know who's got the right of way as far as vehicle traffic goes. And again, agree, Iowa law says pedestrian has the right of way, and sometimes I just bank real hard that I'm gonna leave a big dent and that car's gonna slow down. But I know that's not the case for all.
Because we would have essentially a stop sign for 2 lanes of traffic, which is very strange.
That is the case already at College and North. And
College and Locust, but it's a right turn only.
that's true.
Yeah, this
that's
is
true,
a
yeah.
This is a right straight.
right,
or
straight, left, and a 1 stop sign. That's pretty confusing.
I feel,
Right turn only, I could live with it.
We
I
could
feel
look-
like we could handle it, a stop sign there as is, and I would love to like put in a little planter garden in that lane and make it go away forever.
Okay.
I think the other thing that we should say clearly here is that no matter what way forward we pick for this construction season, it's not going to be perfect. And my goal is not that no one ever experiences a frustrating delay behind someone who doesn't know what a flashing red light means. My goal is that we get through this summer without any significant crashes that hurt people. And there's going to be delays and frustration, and that's the cost of things getting better in this community when we're doing a lot of improvements to the community elsewhere. So like, I just hope we remember like the goal here is not that you never take a few more minutes to get down Water Street in your vehicle. The goal is that this is a safe summer given all the construction going on around town.
Saying that, Steve, sorry, go ahead, Randy.
I was gonna say, if you narrowed that up to one lane, you could move it over to the east, move the center line over, which then trucks would get around that corner, so
Oh,
you'd
and they
have
might
fewer
not
traffic
hit the
lights
thing.
getting knocked out.
I do think that keeping in mind pedestrian safety, doing nothing to the Mechanic, Water Street lanes and putting that as a stop sign is not in the best interest of pedestrian safety.
How do you know that?
You have to, as a driver, you would have to focus on other cars, other pedestrians. And that's not a normal intersection that one would see.
Yeah, that line of sight coming from the south is terrible.
Yeah, so I would not, unless we're gonna actually commit to a lane changes there now, I would keep that light as is. But also, Brent, you probably have the best, your, background probably has,
I'm not a consultant, so I don't know what's best.
okay, I was just yeah.
John, Mike, your guys' thoughts? John, can you grab that? Is that mic working? Yeah. All right.
AI says stop signs are safer, so like, let's trust that.
Well, I hear arguments, or not arguments, I hear points of, that are valid, and I think that Steve's idea of bringing in a consultant to look at what you need downtown to come up with a viable plan in the future makes some sense. I heard Brent say that, the full stop and with the traffic signals in place is something that is understood at this time. And there's the local population knows how to handle that, and that putting everything on a flashing red could serve as a transition for people to learn that they're supposed to stop at every intersection as they traverse downtown. Sometimes I worry a little bit about switching horses midstream. And when we've got a construction project in Hively Street and Iowa Highway 9 that's going on currently, making a significant change to the Water Street traffic pattern could lead to confusion, but I don't know. I hear the conversation going both directions, and I guess that I would defer to the council's opinion on which direction to go. Ultimately, I don't.
How about I phrase the question this way, John? Is there anything that's been discussed so far that would make you go, no, for the love of God, don't do that?
The one thing that I would say is either all or none. Mixing the functioning traffic light and a stop sign and a through and everything like that is a bad idea.
What we have
It's
today
either
sucks.
all red flashing or you all go back to the standard traffic signalization.
John, can you, so I want to make sure, I think there's two options with consistency, and I'm wondering if you have a preference or any thoughts about one. One is all stoplights on water blink red. The second being the first and last, the
State mechanic.
state and mechanic are solid and everything else blinks.
Well, Mill Street is the first one on the western
Yeah, okay,
side.
so that's less consistent. Yeah, okay. I like all blinking.
Maybe we should go bring this to the work session. Well, what's currently on the item on the agenda is the intersection of Water and Court. So why don't we, and I know that what we decide there may be, contingent on what we do with the rest of it, but
I think mechanic is an intersection that looks significantly different. So I'm okay with the blinking light on State. Mechanic, the intersection itself looks different than every other intersection because of the double lanes. So what about blinking on everything except for mechanic?
I think that goes against what John just said.
Well, except the mechanic is a drastically different looking intersection.
Unless we make a garden.
Does mechanic have red brick on all four?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike, anything you want to offer to the conversation?
Of course it does.
Give them your good side.
Yeah, right. I like the idea of Mechanic Street staying the same, or Mechanic and Water. You could always give it a shot on having the rest of them blink, and if in 2 days it goes south, we switch it back. But, it's just trial and error. Who knows on any of the options until actually we do it. Originally Court and Mechanic, it sounded like it'd be, this might work, and, I've had mixed reviews from the public on some like it, some hate it, so
Yeah.
it's trial and error. So I really don't have nothing else to add, so just shooting in the dark.
Travis, I'm unclear about how much action we can take tonight. If it was possible, I would like to propose that we move all lights to blinking. So the court goes back on and staff have discretion to make mechanic and water go back to full red, white, red, yellow, green. Should there be visible queuing and or noted safety concerns?
Yeah, so the action itself tonight has to be limited to that intersection.
Right.
That's not to say, setting them to flashing red throughout the whole corridor, that can be, that doesn't have to be an action taken by council for staff to enact. The Uniform Traffic Code is still going to apply. Of course, we're not just going to run out there and flip the switch tomorrow if nobody tells us to. So if consensus here of council says, hey, we want all of them to flash red, but we're not going to invest in the controller at this point, don't take action, but tell us you like the idea of flashing red lights.
Because it'll flash without investment.
Yeah.
Because they'll function to the point of failure, because again, it's the cabinet and controller that were damaged. That still works, but it's going to fail eventually.
Let's ride it out.
If it fails, can you put out stop signs? Like if it fails before we get to decide what to spend 20,000?
Yeah, that's
I
what
really
I
want
mean,
to
we
see
do
stop
that
signs out there.
Power outages and stuff, yeah, we can do that.
Let's do that.
I'm
So-
not for all of them, but
So in addition to that, like I said, it currently functions while the controller's going, so it will cycle as a traditional traffic signal. Do you want us to have, the new poles came in for the Winnebago Street? So we can get that one, and the concrete work just happened today? Did that get done? Okay, yeah. But, so that pole, that signal can be functional here shortly as well. We can go back to all of them as traditional traffic signals if the council wants as well. And that wouldn't take any action other than telling us, not in the form of a motion.
I'm traditional.
I mean,
I
I
second
would
that.
argue that traditional is stop signs. I would love for them to blink.
I'm okay trying blinking, but I would prefer mechanic doesn't blink.
I would be okay with blinking as well, except the mechanic intersection, because I know that is quite a difference between any of the other intersections in downtown.
But we could put in a garden.
I think keep them blinking for now. Keep the one with the hit cabinet. Roll that until it stops working, and then maybe after we get through all the road work, maybe we can revisit it and decide whether we want to go to consistently red, yellow, green. Like I said before, I was all for switching to stop signs, but like Emily, my thoughts on that have changed too. So I think blinking for now, and then revisit later.
That's I want to reiterate, that is how very much I feel. Right now, I'm like, I'm willing to try if they're all consistent, except for mechanic, but I still have a lot of trepidation.
So we have 3 in favor of that, correct? Is anyone else? 4? Okay.
I'm okay with. the
Sounds like
all
we have
red.
consensus then.
And since we haven't painted the lanes yet, could we, when we do them, could we put temporary lanes on Mechanic on the south end of that intersection?
Why don't we discuss that at our next?
Yeah, that'd be a totally new discussion, but.
Yeah.
I think when construction's all over, we should figure out how we want it to be.
Yeah, I think it sounds like there's at least it's worth trying. So let's try it. And I embrace the same spirit of curiosity and attention. And you know, if this isn't working well, I think we ought to make it better. And it seems like we have possibilities for doing that.
All right, so I just heard vast majority flashing red. Gonna try that. Staff will be at the ready to reactivate mechanic based on some of that feedback should that intersection go awry. And we'll talk internally, and maybe it's something we come back to council to the comments on mechanic. We could even just use the laneators and just kind of block off that right turn lane so it funnels everyone to stay into what's currently that left lane only. It would just force everyone to stay in that lane and go from there.
We've tried that before for a significant amount of time, and I think it was well received.
Yeah, if I
Hence,
remember right,
concrete gardens and flowers would be appreciated.
that's my tenure. I think we were forced to do it also at one point during my time.
We did it because that pole kept getting hit when we
Right.
tried to get trucks to swing
Well,
around.
no, we
Also-
had our city engineer recommended that we do that. At the same time, we were trying other intersection safeties. And there's been construction, Raleigh's have had the dumpster on the road, changing it frequently too.
That's
so.
why I was gonna point out, Raleigh's have had, and actually they do have an upcoming crane that has to be on there at some point, right?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, just let's pile on, the meeting's never gonna end. The sidewalk was closed for a while, and that was frustrating to me because we could have had them have their equipment, we could have routed pedestrians into the road in that lane, because we don't need the lane, and instead, we couldn't walk on the sidewalk. So it's just like, I feel like there's flexibility in use that indicates that that extra lane isn't needed.
I think we should work on more streets and cut off more detours this summer, because I feel like there's just so many. Sorry.
Travis, do we need that in the form of a motion?
No, because the actionable item on the agenda is limited to that intersection.
Okay.
I'm not hearing that anybody wants to order the installation of signs or replacing the cabinet at this time.
Okay.
So staff will take these comments. We will implement flashing red lights throughout the corridor, and we'll look internally at that Mechanic Street intersection and maybe doing a lane restriction there as well.
All right. I look forward to changing our mind about this at our next meeting.
I mean, it's one of those, I can't tell you how many people I'd walk down the street and one person would tell me, oh, I love this, and I'd walk 3 steps,
Right.
I hate this.
Yeah.
I
No,
love
I hear
this,
ya.
I hate this.
I
I'm
hear
like,
ya.
"Ah."
All right, I'm going to move forward here. Item 14, consider ordinance amending Chapter 2.50 Human Rights Commission to comply with Senate File 579, second reading. I do appreciate everyone's opinions on this, but for compliance, we can only have so many protest votes.
I'd move for approval of the second reading.
I'll second.
Is that Parker for a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion by Chisel, second by Parker. Travis, do you want to give the background on this one again, just so people know?
Sure. So again, as a reminder, I want to stress, this proposed ordinance is the result of Senate File 579, approved by the Iowa legislature and signed by the governor. So the city's human rights, or all cities in Iowa, the human rights commissions are no longer allowed to offer any protections greater than what is specified in Iowa code. And additionally, human rights commissioners' terms cannot exceed 2 years. And so other requirements of 579 that were put in place, but city already does this, is to defer to the State Human Rights Commission for complaints filed. But the city already defers that we need to tell them to file with the State Human Rights Commission directly as well for complaints filed. These changes reflect the requirements by removing by reducing appointments to 2 years and removing references to ethnicity, ancestry, gender identity, organizational affiliation, socioeconomic status, public assistance, or source of income. Again, this does nothing other than put us in compliance with Iowa code, stressing that mostly for the local emphasis.
I want to say that I've really wrestled with this since we first got the email that we have to make these changes to our city code. Really frustrated that the desire on the part of some to foment culture wars in communities puts us in a position where we have to be having these conversations instead of conversations about how to measurably improve and enhance the lives of the people we serve. I'm angry about it, and I don't think it serves the people of Decorah well for us as a council to be forced to make a vote on this. I don't think it really helps anything, and I think this sends the absolute wrong message to Iowans. I think common sense Iowans know that our state is stronger because there's all sorts of people who call it home. And regardless of what our city code says after this vote, I just hope that if you're a resident of our community, I just want you to know that you are welcome here, and that I support you, and that I hope that I speak for this whole council in supporting you and hoping that you stay here and that you feel welcome here. And that's regardless of what our code says, and it's certainly regardless of all the things that we're being forced to strip out of our code, regardless of your ethnicity or your ancestry or your gender identity or the organizations you choose to affiliate with, which is constitutionally protected, by the way, or your socioeconomic status, or your public assistance, or your source of income. I just want you to know you're welcome in this town, and I think that you make it better, and that I resent this, and I want to get back to work doing the things that makes our whole community better. And I look forward to that work continuing as soon as possible, as soon as we're done dispatching with this silly business from Des Moines.
Thanks, Steve. I also just want to point out it also highlights further erosion of home rule. So, just one more example.
I voted against this last meeting. I intend to vote against it again. I know that makes our city manager and our attorney uncomfortable, and I am sorry.
And Mayor.
And your mayor. I am sorry, but I really do believe that we live in a time where our state is continuing to take away human rights, and I can't fathom being the one entity of government that, God forbid we need it, that we wouldn't be able, that I would even consider passing a law that says that I can't protect people beyond what my state does, because I don't trust my state right now to be protecting human rights, because they've demonstrated time and time again that they won't. At the same time, the federal government right now is essentially working against human rights, and so we're a government body. We represent the people of Decorah, and my job is to protect the people of Decorah, all people of Decorah. I will not vote for this.
And every year we lose more population in the state by like tens of thousands. Young people are trying to decide whether they want to leave or whether they want to move here. The legislation from the state that attacks education and human rights and libraries, I mean, it seems like they seem like suicide actions to me. It's a real hard decision for a lot of younger people to stay in the state or not, and the state of Iowa is not doing itself any favors in that regard.
Any other comments, further discussion? Roll call.
Jizzle.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Neal.
Nope.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Bergen.
Aye.
Zittergren.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1. Item 15, consider approval of moving Delta Dental Insurance to IGHCP.
Oh, okay. Just, it's that time of year again where we're looking at renewals for the benefits that we provide to the employees. We currently have our health insurance through IGHCP, and so I had them quote out our dental. They are able to give us a better price than we have right now. I have it that the city will save over $4,000 annually, and it would still stay with Delta Dental, and it is still the same plan.
I'd move for the change.
I'll second.
Okay, thanks for your work on that, Carrie. Got a motion by by Chisel, second by Miscelinich. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Jizzle.
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Bergen.
Aye.
Zittergren.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Item 16, consider approval of increasing health insurance rates.
Through the health insurance rates, we are with Wellmark, and then we are partially self-funded. Our rate increase with Wellmark this year was 2.39%. It was a great rate. Last year we had a 0 increase with Wellmark. We also have, with the self-funded portion of it, we have a fund that we try to keep about $50,000 in. Over the last few months, it's been hovering around $35,000. I get a monthly report, and today I received that report, and we are now down to $28,000. So we are suggesting to do an increase of 4% on the partially self-funded side of that. The initial dollar amount that I gave you over the weekend, I was looking at the numbers again. I was a little off. If we do 4% on the self-funded portion of it, it would cost the city about $30,000. We feel that this still needs, it's still the best bet. We looked at 3,000, we didn't feel like that was enough. Or not, sorry, not 3,000, 3%, and did not think that was enough. So we feel that we are better at the 4% with what we know is coming down the pipeline. And this is a shared cost between the city and the employees. So they'll also see a cost right now, family, they pay about $191 a month. That'll go up just below $200. The single pays $43.60, and they'll be just below $45.
Have you had any feedback from employees? No.
Not, yeah, yeah.
I feel like we're all in this boat, I think, for the most part.
Yeah, regardless, if it continues to go down, the council would have to decide to do something and probably dip into the 112 employee benefit fund. And since we're already kind of using some of that for fiscal year 27, it's probably best to go 4%.
Sounds like that's necessary.
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Whittle, seconded by Neal. Any further comments? Discussion? Roll call?
Whittle,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Miscelinich,
Aye.
Bergen,
Aye.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Chisel.
Motion passes unanimously. Item 17, consider approval of moving life insurance to standard with IGHCP.
We are currently with Reliance. We have been with Reliance since before I started with the city. And since I started with the city, we have had problems with their customer service and with that company applying our benefits correctly. With our life insurance, we have the portion that the city pays for all the employees, and then we have another portion where employees can choose to have more life insurance. And so those are two different payments, and they're always crossing those payments. I spoke with Brian Hinker when we met a couple weeks ago, and he's all for us moving it. His employees are pretty much done trying to work with Reliance also. So we would be going with IGHCP because they would also, we'd be also to be able to save money with them, and then hopefully better customer service,
A little more reliant.
right?
Yeah.
I'd
Really?
move for the change.
Second.
Okay, motion by Chisel, seconded by Whittle. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Chisel,
Aye.
Whittle,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Miscelinich,
Aye.
Bergen,
Aye.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
All right, motion passed unanimously. Item 18, discussion and possible action of implementing vision benefit.
This is probably where I've gotten the most questions from employees is vision. And so I brought it up to IGHCP. I really didn't think they would even allow us to have it unless it was partially paid by the city. But that is not the case. They were able to quote that out for us, and it can be 100% employee paid. And we've had discussions that we're not looking for this to turn into something necessarily that the city does pay for. We made that clear with the department heads, and hopefully that will get back to the employees. They usually like a 50% take rate. They said they would work with us. So basically what we're starting with is starting with you. Are you okay with this? Do you approve it? And then if you do, then we'll roll it out to the employees and see if we have the interest.
Sure.
I come with all the glasses.
Okay, Randy made a motion. Anyone want a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, but I think we should all just say sure, like that.
Like Randy did. All right, motion by Chisel, second by Miscelinich. Any further discussion?
I got one comment. How come you guys just flew through 4 action items with her? And
We like to give you a tough
I
time,
feel like
Travis.
there's a different
She
variable.
sent really great emails ahead of time with all.
Because
No, I think-
everyone knows stoplights are confusing.
All right, motion by Chisel, second by Miscelinich. Any further discussion?
It's because we're taking care of our staff.
Absolutely.
And because our, no, never mind. Yeah.
All right, roll call.
Chisel. Ms. Lynch.
Aye.
Bergen.
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Neal.
Sure.
Parker.
Sure.
All right, item 19, discussion
Medicare for
on,
all, sorry.
discussion on city code, Title 13, water and sewers. I'll be back in half an hour.
We'll have Carrie lead this one. It'll be done no
Yeah. Yeah, Carrie, can you give us the background?
Well, I'll start
It
out with
mostly
this.
will be Carrie, by the way.
Yeah, I'll start out with this, but Travis will be pitching in on this. You know, with everything, the work that we've been doing with the water meters, the change in the software and everything. So we're kind of on the last stretch of now trying to get our ordinance to line up with everything and make the changes that we think would be best for the residents. So I had sent out an email, and I'll kind of just read through it, of discussion items of what we're looking to do. The high, there's some words, some verbiage that we're gonna change the ordinance, but these are kind of the main things that we need to discuss. We are wanting to go to monthly billing for all the residents. Right now, we bill a third of the residents each month, but looking to go to all of them. Switching from cubic feet to gallons. I think people can really get their mind wrapped around gallons more than cubic feet. It is extremely hard to explain. Taking the water usage out of the water base. Right now, we have the water base, which includes the first 500 cubic feet. And that's really not the purpose of a water base, just like our sewer base. So we're looking to take that first 500 out of the water base and then start with charging at the first gallon.
There'd still be a water base.
There
So
would be.
you still get it, okay.
There still would be a water base. We are asking, due to the costs of the postage, we are asking to apply a $1 fee per month for receiving the water and sewer bill through the mail. We're hoping that this would be the incentive that the majority would sign up for the email. Right now, I think it's 61 cents. You know, it's going to be about $2,000 a month to do the whole city monthly. And so we kind of thought this would kind of hopefully balance things out.
Yep.
And then I got an idea from the city of Cresco. We only have a handful left of residents and businesses that have not switched over to the new meters. Getting pretty stubborn, and so what the city of Cresco did that I thought was a great idea is at the last, ditch effort, they charged a $100 surcharge per month for having the old meter. That ended things probably really quick, and if they were, so we would send, my proposal would be, we'd send that letter out saying, we've tried all this, you're still not responding, have this done by July 1, otherwise a $100 fee, and if they even if they wait for July 1 and then do it, I have no problem wiping off that $100 as long as council would be okay with that, but we're just trying to get everybody wrapped up.
How many are we waiting on?
10, do you think?
Oh, yeah, do that.
A little bit more, 10 to 20, I would
Okay,
say.
great.
And then the last piece that we need to talk about, some of the council had wanted to talk about the city taking ownership from the water line to the curb stop. It started out with commercial businesses, but I think there's a bigger discussion there. So it's kind of where, if everybody's good, except maybe the main conversation, I'm guessing, is going to be the water line.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. Both for these proposals and your emails, love all of these things, including that I might finally actually sign up for online payment. So your strategies are well taken. One question about the cubic feet to gallons. Is it per 1,000 gallons or 100 gallons? Because that number feels like it'll be very minute.
Travis and I were working on that this afternoon, and we were saying it would be per 1,000. Usually when you go to gallons, you go to per 1,000 gallons.
Could we just take these one at a time? It seems like they're all pretty different issues.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to start at the top of your list and maybe we can just see if there's no objections?
Going to monthly billing for all residents.
Yeah. Anyone have any problems with that? Moving on. It's great. That'll be great for residents. That'll be great for notifying them of their usage issues. If they have a flowing toilet or something, we find out about it. They find out about it a lot quicker, and it helps with budgeting. If you're someone on a monthly income, like there's a lot of good about this. So I think it's a great service to the community.
I would say the majority of all the changes we've made is really for the community. Switching from cubic feet to gallons.
7.5. So I just have to tell my kids, don't use so many gallons instead of don't use so many cubic feet.
I feel like as an advocate of the metric system, I just have to say liters makes a lot more sense to most of the world, but we could do gallons.
Thank you. Taking water usage out of the water base.
Love it.
I want to ask about this. One of my concerns historically has been that that the base rate doesn't adequately reflect the fact that we've got a lot of infrastructure in the ground, and it's very expensive to get it to each home. And so I want to make sure that our base rate fully captures the value of all of that water infrastructure, and I don't think our current base rate does, right? Some of that is sort of offset by giving people a little bit of free usage. I feel like that sort of balances the scales in the right direction. And so like, I guess I would want to see this in concert with a rate study that ensured that folks who were just using their home once or twice a year, and otherwise it was sitting empty, we're paying enough of a base rate to justify how expensive it is to run the water to their house, even if they aren't running their taps all the time.
I guess I saw
That's my concern, yeah.
I guess I saw this as like the step to separate, which would make that conversation after a rate study easier.
Oh, we did look into it, and if we took, we just kind of did some quick numbers, and if we took the water usage out of the water base, it would increase about $20,000 a month.
In revenue.
In revenue, sorry.
So it's taking the we'll call it the credit of the first 500 cubic feet per quarter as part of your base consumption. I agree with you, Stephen, that the base fee associated with the utility bill is meant to cover the fixed costs associated with delivery of that utility. There is an inherent value that when I walk to my kitchen sink and I turn on the faucet, water comes out. That's the base fee. I turn it on, water comes out, that's the base fee. All that infrastructure that's required to get it to my house. The consumption rate is how much it costs for that water as it flows through my faucet. That is the staff time that it takes to treat the water, to maintain the system. That is any kind of the chlorine injection,
The electricity to
the
pump it.
electricity of the pumping, all of that stuff. That is my consumption portion of my bill. And so what we're talking about is actually taking the 500 of consumption out of the base, leaving the base rate the same, and then that first 500 cubic feet that historically was free because it was built into the base is now applied to the first tier of consumption rate. That's how I would envision it moving forward. But to Johanna's point, it would be the starter of the conversation of, do you feel like we need to bake into that base rate some level of consumption or differentiate the two?
I'm okay differentiating them. I just feel like, for a lot of years we've said, hey, we need to do a rate study. We need to ensure that our base rate reflects the cost of running the utility to each house. Like obviously there's always other things that come up. I don't want to see this happen and then like us continue to punt on that second conversation, because if we just do this without having that other conversation, I think we're shifting costs to people who use our water system instead of people who just have a connection to it. And that's what I'm concerned about.
Okay.
It would add, once we go monthly, it would add about a $6 charge to the water bill monthly.
How do we feel about that?
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, as a first brush rebalancing I don't know how doable this is in committee, but like instead of taking that $6 and kind of charging it as usage from gallon one, could we instead try to capture that projected revenue increase via raising the base rate for everyone and lowering the cost per gallon so it's revenue neutral, but Does that make sense? Like, I don't want to increase revenues here. Like, that's not the goal of this conversation. The goal is clarity, and it's like, you know, for me, I'd rather see the usage be the thing that gets the cut right now, and not the base rate.
Yep, I know exactly what you're saying. So yeah,
There's two of us in here, then I think.
Oh, I'm on the opposite end.
Yeah,
I guess
so-
I would rather see usage be, if we raise the base rate, that hurts people who aren't using a lot of water. So in my mind, I'd rather keep the base rate the same and get rid of the baked in amount.
Why is that, Emily? Just curious.
Because I think about the person who uses, you know, a elderly woman living alone in her apartment who doesn't use very much water. If we increase her base rate, she'll pay more for her water bill, I guess is what I was thinking. Or maybe she wouldn't, because you know, it winds up being the same if we start charging the 500 gallons. I don't know.
So grandma's usually the argument that we hear with base rates.
Yeah.
Right. Grandma doesn't use near as much water as my house, the family of 6 and 10 neighborhood kids that are running through a sprinkler all summer long. So there is that absolute mentality of, well, if we charge too high a rate, now grandma's paying a lot. But if the base rate is meant to cover the fixed infrastructure costs, then regardless of whether it's grandma or my family using a ton of water, we have the same infrastructure costs. That's what the base rate should be focused on recovering, and then the consumption then is, I'm just restating what I said before, but there's also, if we try and tip the scales and say, well, bigger consumers should start paying more, and we want to have a higher rate but a lower base pay, then if I am a second property owner here in Decorah that still has all this infrastructure, but I'm here 4, 5, 6 times a year, and I use hardly any water, all of that infrastructure still has to be in the ground to maintain, and I'm not consuming enough water to actually offset the cost of the infrastructure. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if you try and tip the scales too far, that you have a low base rate and offset by consumption, that consumption sometimes throws off those types of users.
When are we planning on going to this monthly billing? July 1?
Hoping so, yes.
Would it make sense to come back 3 months, get a quarter under our belt and see where we are compared to a quarter prior, and just see how things look, and then have this discussion?
I think it would be great to have a time to look at it again. I don't know that I'd be interested in just like a report on numbers a quarter into the new system. I'm reflecting back on a conversation, Carrie, where you shared a desire or a recommendation for us to be using the new system for a whole year before we talked about a rate set discussion. And so if that is still like a recommendation that would come to us, I'm comfortable moving forward with the separation of use and the base, knowing that rates study would be an opportunity to make a change.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
we're planning on.
Yeah.
We wouldn't propose any rate changes, I say, other than if we pull that first 500 cubic
Right.
feet
Switch
out,
it.
then it has to be a charge to the consumption rate, right? So it's still the same rate, but now your first 500 per quarter, I might add, so you gotta divide that by 3 for your monthly, would be catching that first rate tier.
We put, when we started doing the project, started in June. We finished up, for the most part, they were done October. So this fall, we could look at it. We could look at it during budget. It's just whatever,
before budget.
whatever.
Randy
you
and
guys are
Johanna have
looking for.
convinced me. I think it's a nice it's a very good start to separate the two clearly. And let's do that and then reassess once we have more information about how the system's working for people. One thing that grandma might be glad to hear, or someone who's a really low user of water in the system, is now if they have been historically using under that free 500, now they're actually going to have a lower bill because of it than someone who's using the full 500 would. So I'm just saying there's some good and bad here, and I think separating them is at least a good step towards even more clarity for the users of our system.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. The $100 surcharge for the individuals that are left.
Yep.
Yep.
Sure.
Not switching over.
Yes.
Oh, yep, let's go back. I skipped one. Applying the $1 per month fee
Yes.
for
We're-
printing the water bills.
What about people that don't have internet?
We got a library.
It's true.
We do. I mean,
Public
it's,
service.
I mean, I guess we are kind of looking at it
Not everybody's
as.
internet savvy or has the ability to get there. I mean,
What we're looking for is the majority. Again, it's like something that's not going to make everybody happy by any means.
This is pretty standard practice too across
It
almost
is.
every
We,
almost every
started
industry.
Every
noticing
utility,
that.
every bank now
Yeah,
charges
everyone.
if you want, if you
Right.
don't do an e-statement, you're getting charged.
Right.
And of course, if there's someone that, we'd always try to work with them, but we can only just really go for what's going to work for the majority.
This is one that I struggle with because I really like paper statements. I think I'm just old school enough. I like them for my credit cards, my bank statements, and I guess now everyone's going to camp outside my mailbox and steal my identity. But, emails get lost. I think we all get lots of emails a day, and as Randy pointed out, that's an access issue for many members of our community who maybe don't look at their email ever, and do pay attention when their water bill comes. I feel like this is a real cost, but I think at the same time, it's a real cost to mail a letter to everyone in town every month. $2,000 a month is what you said, Carrie.
Yep,
And so I
right
feel
around.
like when you put those in balance, to me, I'd rather nudge people towards that email statement. And if they simply don't want to participate in it, they do have the option for $12 a year of getting their paper statement. So that seems reasonable to me.
Fair trade-off. Yep.
And I guess one of our thoughts too is that once we start billing monthly, they don't have to remember it once a quarter to go looking for it. It'll be monthly, so maybe more routine for them to
Right.
think about looking for that email. And I think I kind of got the $100 surcharge. I
Yep.
think I have the
Consensus
correct-
on that. Yep.
So then the last one's the big ticket item.
Can I-
The city taking responsibility for the water line from the water main to the curb stop.
Can,
all properties then throughout the community?
Commercial.
That's what we need to start discussing.
Let the debate begin.
Well, I mean, like, if so in the email we got, it was proposed commercial properties, and like, my question is, how many feet in the whole city? And then what's our cost per foot to replace things? And I don't know the answers to those questions, and I didn't even ask because I am sure that those numbers will scare me into that this is not a financial infrastructure cost that we can afford to take on.
It's also an equity issue, like Travis and I were talking about beforehand, with some having the main closer to their building and being further away from other buildings. So that would be also, in my opinion, a nightmare to deal with. But
What, for the entire city, water main to curb, homeowners have some insurance, correct?
They can get it. They have it available to them.
Right. I think the problem, again, it comes to equity, is for those people who can't get in, there's a dead zone of which a business can't get insurance in the city's right of way. Is that where it is happening? And so because of that, I do think it's an equity issue in terms of businesses. I think that they're at a disadvantage. Some businesses have their water main really close, some have it really far away, and so they experience great cost, and they can't protect themselves against it. And I think that's what the problem in my mind is, especially when I think about some of the downtown infrastructure issues, which just has to do with that our infrastructure is insufficient to handle a vibrant downtown in terms of the size of the pipe, right? When it was first put in, it was too small compared to what it should be now.
That's the service itself.
Yeah.
Not the main, which is the current city infrastructure.
But what I'm saying is that that's the infrastructure that's breaking, that has no insurance that the commercial folks can get. And so, right, unless we want to just go and replace it all. But I guess that's where I want to speak on behalf of businesses in that regard. I think if there are places where commercial residents can't get insurance, we should be looking at that as well. Because I just think that is a strange thing to ask someone to be like, I know you didn't put in the water structure, you have no idea how much, you don't even have a way to inspect it yourself when you buy a house or do any of that, yet you could be strapped with a $20,000 infrastructure cost that you can't get insurance for.
And also, just to Emily's point, I know for a fact that if some of these commercial property owners downtown could buy insurance, they would be buying insurance.
Exactly.
100% would be buying insurance for that.
Yeah, they're not trying to be irresponsible property
No,
owners.
No.
So it sounds like there was some conversation before, but I think we've blown completely past it of not picking and choosing, whether it's just the C3 district that you're looking at, the potential for the city to take on the commercial industrial service versus across the city, commercial industrial, because that does give John and I some concerns on, did you refer to it as permissible discrimination? Is that how it was structured?
So if I have an LLC, will you fix it in front of my house?
Well, that's also gets
No,
to the
that's
point.
the argument.
Great
though,
point.
too.
That's where I'm getting
Yeah.
the next step.
I work from home.
So if you are a residential property, like a home, but you run a commercial enterprise out of it, is that a commercial service or is that a private residential service?
But you can get insurance, correct? On your,
I don't know. Am I gonna have to ask them for proof of a service denial before the city assumes ownership from the main to the corporation? What I'm getting at is, I would encourage council to consider, if this is a step the council wants to take, which is going to take on additional infrastructure liability, using, I think it was John's comment before, I think this is an all or none. If we're looking at expanding the city's infrastructure liability to include services, the curb stop, something outside of what's today just the main, and I understand the conversation is, well, commercial properties can't get insurance. So if that is the reason why, but I, as a residential, I can have insurance, but on top of, I need to carry my own insurance, and now I have to pay more to the system to maintain somebody else's that can't get insurance. Why don't we treat the utility system as an insurance pool, essentially, and say, okay, nobody needs to get insurance for the curb stop in, and everything within the right-of-way that we have direct access to. It's within our right-of-way, it's within our right to maintain. We don't need permission to go on the property to do anything there. And in addition, the curb stop for residential properties is operationally more important for the city, because when we go have to shut off a utility because of non-payment, those aren't commercial properties, those are residential properties. And 9 times out of 10, we go to shut them off, and they shut off, and then they come in and pay the bill, and we turn them back on. That 1 time out of 10, we go to shut that curb stop off, and it doesn't work. Well, if code requires that the homeowner, property owner, has to maintain that curb stop, we now have to tell them, we tried to shut off your water because you haven't paid your bill, and you need to fix your curb stop so we can shut you off because you're not paying your bill. Guess what happens? Non-compliance. They never fix it, so then we administratively have to go through a process to put them on notice that they need to fix it, and then they don't, and then we fix it for them, and when we send them a bill, they don't pay it, then we assess the taxes for the property. This can all be streamlined as well as part of that. If the council says, you know what, we are willing to take on more infrastructure to maintain at a higher cost, I think it's just across the community, curb stop to curb stop. That's everything within the right of way. It ensures that if we have issues with curb boxes, we fix them as part of the infrastructure. And at the end of the day, it does result eventually in slightly higher utility rates. The City of Independence actually just did this conversion this past year. They took the approach, they went with a 3% rate increase for this year, and then they're taking a wait and see approach as to what it does for their actual operating costs for maintenance and repairs on the services before they do an adjustment.
So this would essentially protect all residents and businesses curb stop to curb stop.
If the council wants to take on the infrastructure, that's what I would recommend.
I am good with that.
The way you phrased it a little bit, the collective,
Like an insurance pool almost.
Yeah,
as
yeah, I think
it's
that-
just now part of the system.
I think that's great. Yeah, just spread it out amongst everybody so that no individual gets slapped with a huge cost. Essentially, we're all just insuring ourselves by paying just a little bit extra to avoid any astronomical costs. I think it's a good idea.
I guess
Plus,
I was going to say, I'd like to hear what we think of our infrastructure. Do we think it's in great shape, or do we think it's about to all fall apart? I think that's a real question that we should be asking ourselves here.
Beat me to the punch. It was a little long-winded. So here's the cons of that concept.
Sorry,
So-
John, you'll get your turn.
Yeah. So one of the things that does give us trepidation of going that route is the lead and galvanized order from the EPA that eventually, we have 200 to 300, is that right, Todd? Somewhere in there? Because some of those are qualified as unknown, so we have to treat them as if they are lead or galvanized. And so between 200 and 300 services in Decorah are in that category. If the EPA does finally hand down an order and says all of these will be replaced, if we've now accepted that as public infrastructure, we're now replacing 200 to 300 from the curb stop to the main at the system's expense. So that does give us a bit of trepidation there. That's probably the largest one. Other things, Todd, Mike,
But I think,
John?
sorry. I mean, heavy metals don't just stay in that area, right? So part of the reason to replace lead pipes is for community benefit. So it is actually, it's not as if we're helping out a homeowner just by replacing their lead pipes. We're helping out our entire community water supply by not having lead pipes in our system at all. I do think the idea is community. And so in my mind, it's a little bit like when Randy and I, when we redid Main Street, and I think Randy and I both agreed that there's community benefit to streets and the infrastructure above and below, and so we shouldn't assess property owners based on when we do streets. I like that model. To me, this is part of that model, that we've got city infrastructure from curb to curb, and we should be responsible for it. And it gives equity among homeowners so that it's not like, well, I just happened to buy a house that my water main, or my shutoff is right here, and yours is, down in the middle of the street. However it works, it just seems arbitrary who's gonna get hit with a giant bill, and that's been frustrating in my time on council to hear that. So I like equity, I also like community, and I believe that we help everyone. As Cody said, like this community insurance bank.
So I did just quickly, I threw out an email to my colleagues through an email forum and asked them to answer this poll. I asked those that have a city water utility, where does the city's infrastructure end and the property owners begin? I've only had 26 respondents to this. Not everybody checks this email forum all that regularly, but 18 of those votes, so 70%, the main only. 18 votes, about 70% main only. 2 votes, or 8%, was at but not including the curb stop, with 5 or 20% including the curb stop, which only makes sense to me that if you're extending the service infrastructure that far, I would encourage including the curb stop, because in my head, for us to test. Like if we say, all right, we've shut off the water at the curb stop, and if they're not using any water in the house and we've got a pressure gauge on an outdoor hose bib or something, and we turn that on, the pressure gauge should hold steady as long as we're not using any water. Now, if it drops, that shows that the service on their side has the leak versus our side. That's why I would say I would include that curb stop. I did include as an answer at but not including the meter, and at and including the meter, assuming it was going to be zeros, because how do you assume responsibility for a line as it goes under somebody's foundation and into a under a building, into a building? And one person did respond that they are all the way up to and including the meter.
What
Now, I'm
time?
trying to figure out who that is and how they do that, because we want nothing to do with that.
I really
Chopper,
am
was that you?
for curb stop to curb stop.
Travis, I'm really appreciative of your point that if we do this, we should just probably do it for the whole community and include the curb stops. And my fears are kind of, one, not knowing what we don't know right now. I feel like there's probably lots of unintended consequences. I'd like to see how Independence is doing in a few years. I'm not saying we should wait a few years. I'm just saying I wish we could see how that was going for them. And I frankly don't think this would be a responsible decision to make until we knew what the effect would be on user rates citywide. So that's something I don't know how we get that information, but I think it's important information for us to have before we go down this path, especially in a high confusion environment with changes to water meters and changes to billing and some of the other changes we're talking about right now. Like I'm afraid of adding another layer of confusion to this because there's trolls out there who will delight in taking advantage of any confusion we create to paint the worst possible picture of the services that we provide. I'm not sure if you all have seen Facebook. I do think, though, that this seems like a place where the city doing it all together probably will do it better than individual homeowners who are not experts in managing construction projects and who don't do this every day. I think we would do better at it. I'd like to see us get there. I just want to see us get there via information that I don't feel like we have right now, especially what we anticipate the costs to be of taking on this additional responsibility. And how do we get that? That's my big question. And I guess my other question is, would this be a subsidy from any particular kind of property to any other particular kind of property? I guess what I'm saying is, like, if I'm a property owner on a 50-foot wide road, I'm getting a fairly good deal here. If I'm a property owner on a narrow road with a tiny setback to my front yard, like, maybe that's less of a good deal that I'm getting. And I when you make these kinds of decisions without considering all the intended and unintended consequences, like, you can make bad decisions. I want to make sure we're not indirectly incentivizing people to say, oh, sweet, like, the city's taking care of all this. That means that I'm going to design, build, plan neighborhoods and subdivisions that have a lot more pipes underground or whatever. Does that sort of make sense?
It does. And one of those questions I think I can answer right away. So you talked about if I have a house that is snug up to the property line versus one that's 50, 60 feet set back from the front. If the city's responsibility is the curb box that ends at the right-of-way line, and nearly all right-of-ways in the city of Decorah are uniform 66 feet wide. Now, we've got some variance and deviation there, but what that does is it provides essentially an equal distance that the city maintains per connection point of the service. Where you're going to see some deviation on the benefit is if it's a higher use. The best way to put this is many of the existing water services, especially on Water Street, that are failing, to Emily's point earlier, they had undersized services for what their building was being used for. you know, a 3/4 inch copper line servicing a restaurant with multiple upper story residential above. You know, that's drinking a milkshake through a cheap plastic straw, a thick milkshake through a cheap plastic straw. So at the end of the day, that service deteriorates quicker than my home 3/4 inch service drawing a normal residential use, or the business downtown that is a retail shop that, you know, the restroom, it's one toilet meant for the person working. That uses hardly any water, so that service can maintain much longer. So there you do have some bit of variance on the benefit.
Can I ask a quick question to clarify your answer there? Would this create sort of like a no penalty on folks who buy the wrong property, the wrong service line, you know, kind of knowing that the city's going to fix it? Or like if I've got a restaurant that I'm putting in a business that's never had a restaurant before, and I want an inch service line or something to my property, I only have to get that to the curb stop, and then all the additional stress that places on the city system is probably going to result in a failure to the city's side, right? Like, I worry about those kinds of perverse incentives we'd be creating.
So I would structure it much like we do a developer. We maintain once it's public infrastructure, but if you want an upgrade, you got to do that. So let's say I'm Joe Q, business owner downtown, building owner, excuse me. I have a 1-inch service line and I want to change it to something that's going to require a 2, then you got to replace. You want an upgrade, you got to replace that.
And I do think that what we're seeing is that, I mean, for that end, we want more restaurants downtown. So, I mean, a restaurant downtown benefits everyone, not just the restaurant owner. And I think that's where we have to look at this. So I had 2 thoughts. One is we must have a formula for how many linear feet of infrastructure we have and what kind of safety savings we need in order to support that. So why wouldn't we use the same concept we do for our current water structure and say, all right, if we do this, we're going to increase our water infrastructure by this much. And I want to push back at Steve's notion that, well, we're going to change this, we're going to change that, and I think this is a good time to change it because we're going to change the water rates. And so we're outlining a lot of ways in which we're going to create a better, more equitable water system, and to me, this is what this is doing. So it goes in line with both our water meters and our rate changes, and I guess I'd rather have us thinking broadly about that equitable water system and then making a change, which we're doing right now, which is why I think this is an important conversation to have as we make changes to our water rates, because this will impact rates. Of course it will, right? We will need to bump up our rates. That's the great thing, is that together, right, we can lift the water infrastructure of Decorah at minimal impact to each person, but then at the benefit of knowing that a better water infrastructure is better for all residents in Decorah.
So we can make some estimates on, I'll call it replacement cost or full-blown replacement, not just spot repairs, relatively easily, because again, if we're going to make some assumptions here, right? So most city right-of-ways are 66 feet wide. Also, most water mains run center line of the street. Even if they don't, if I'm shifted one way or the other, I still only have 66 feet wide right-of-way. So if I'm going 15 feet to the property line this way, that means I'm going 41 feet the other way. I end up with an average of 33 feet for those two. So we can estimate largely the replacement costs. Now but the extremely big variable is the existing condition and materials of the services themselves. So when it comes to, are all of these going to be coming into repair right now, like what we're seeing on Water Street with that infrastructure being 30 years old, or whether it's the daily edition when that wave comes around, and as all of these subdivisions pop up and then they get all built out around the same time, all of that infrastructure fails around the same time.
Can I ask a question? Is this being considered by request of council or or has there been support of
Council.
recommendation by staff?
This has been a council request to consider changing what we accept as ownership and responsibility.
What do we see? I mean, I think Travis brought up a couple good points, anecdotal, but are most of our failures residential, commercial? Is it across the board? Where do we see most of our residential? Okay. As far as infrastructure is concerned, do we see, I mean, like Travis said too, it's in waves, but do we foresee certain areas being issues, or is it the same areas that continue to be the problem?
Todd, do you want to
No rhyme or reason?
No correlation. I
Okay.
mean, a lot of that has to do with ground movement and everything else when it comes to a water main break. Service leaks, obviously age, but the biggest factor, like Travis said, is consumption. 30 years ago, when these water services were put in, they were not undersized. For most of what was uptown in Decorah at that time, they were adequate size service. People are still putting in 3/4-inch services today. So it's not like they were undersized or the city tried to get away with it, doing something, cheap or whatever else. It's just as time changed and all these business or restaurants and high water users, they've chose to put that in there, that high water usage. That's what's wearing out the service. When you have 100 pounds of pressure downtown and you're pulling that much water through a service like that, you're going to wear it out.
So do we make it required? Do we make a certain,
No. I mean, if we make it required that people change their water, it's already cost prohibitive to start a restaurant downtown. It's already cost prohibitive by our code. I mean, you see tons of people trying to do innovative things in downtown buildings, and they can't because it costs too much money, and now we're going to say, now you need to change your water pipes?
Yeah, and to be clear that some of that is state requirements. So I think my concern is the arguments about building an equitable system that is stronger and better for the community is a great compelling argument. And if it is financially feasible, one that we should explore, that I'm willing to talk about. This conversation has been had in a intangible philosophical sense, and I am not comfortable in continuing this conversation or even engaging in this conversation without at least some scenario-based numbers. It is not that this isn't a good idea now. My concerns are that in the 70s or whenever subdivisions were created, choices were made about infrastructure. And when I look across our community, I see excess feet of concrete everywhere on streets that are now in disrepair that we have a limited budget to repair. And every year we have to make decisions about what block gets covered and what doesn't, and we argue about if Main Street should be replaced curb to curb at the size it is, even though it is ridiculously too wide for the usage of a residential street. And we come to consensus to fix this infrastructure as it exists because some dudes 5 to 6 decades ago decided we needed all of this. And we have not, since that time, appropriately taxed or fee rate sets for our utilities the replacement costs of that. And so I am concerned that we don't adequately secure costs to maintain what we already have, much less accept responsibility for an unquantifiable number of additional water. This theoretically sounds good, and I do not understand how it would math without considerable rate increases.
And I guess I am less, I can see it how it doesn't math out with considerable rate increases. It's not that I don't disagree with you, right? We obviously need hard numbers. This conversation is because I think we should move forward with this idea. I think Travis is looking for where do we want to go with this? I think we should figure out some numbers related to curb coverage of the water infrastructure. I do think that it's also compelling to understand we have a housing crisis, and home ownership in this town is really expensive. So this is a way that we aren't putting unnecessary costs onto homeowners that are like, what do you mean I have a $20,000 bill for infrastructure that's in the street? And likewise, I think when we redid Main Street, I was really proud of us that we said we're not going to assess for that infrastructure cost onto houses, because it would be an unequitable assessment in terms of how long is your lot, how long is this, when Main Street is a community value for everyone in the community. And like I said before, I do think of water infrastructure in that way as well. So I think we should get the numbers. I think Travis is asking, what do we want to do? I think we should explore curb-to-curb coverage of water infrastructure.
I wasn't laughing at your comment either. I was laughing at just Travis's stone-faced look on his face.
I'm sitting here thinking I just said I should have let Carrie lead this.
I mean, to be clear, I am even resistant of the idea of asking staff to spend time on these hypothetical situations, which I think will be very hypothetical, built on a lot of assumptions. I might have more comfort in that if it was baked into the plan for a full rate study and we were consulting out some of this. I am so hesitant that I am not interested in providing direction for staff to spend time on this.
I think I would agree with Emily to, try to figure out what that would look like for curb to curb to include the stops.
I think we got too many other things going on at this time. These buildings downtown that people are putting the restaurants into 30 years ago when we did the streets were not restaurants. Everything was working fine. One restaurant has added 2 levels with further restaurant services, restrooms, et cetera. I don't think it's on the rest of us to pay for that. If they need it upgraded, they can upgrade it. I could see Rubaiyat having issues because that used to be a department store not too many years back. T-Box was a department store before they went in there. So I mean, when the uses of the buildings change, the uses of the water changes. And if the city is going to take on curb stops, it's going to be a very pricey deal for the city, because I was just looking on my phone here. I got a quote for $6,000 for a replacement of one curb stop. So if we have to do that 10 times a summer, if we have a failure, the Daily Edition or wherever, somebody fails, or Park Street up there, because that's a very old neighborhood. A lot of pressure getting water up and down that hill. Could be very pricey for the city if we're not prepared for it. So I think we leave things as is with the other changes that we're making and come back and revisit this at a later date after we get some of these other big projects that staff are working on taken care of.
Maybe we could develop some kind of assistance program too, just kind of meet halfway, just so people are not getting slammed with an out of nowhere, like just being a business owner and just like already having all the costs associated with just trying to create something new in downtown and then getting hit out of nowhere with something like that. And maybe we could offer some kind of assistance or
So that actually does cue me up perfectly for a program that we enacted when I was over in Humboldt, where knowing that, I don't remember the percentage that lives paycheck to paycheck off the top of my head, but it's a pretty high amount. And so even from a residential standpoint, being able to cover the costs there, when I was in Humboldt, you hire the contractor you want, we will pay them direct after you sign a voluntary assessment agreement that says the city will pay this bill, but I, as property owner, will, over the next 5 years, at X% interest, pay this on my tax bill, and then the city would get a remittance back from the county that way. And so we can set that below prime. If council wants to say we want to just do 1%, just to kind of cover administrative type costs, could do that. You could try and recover a little bit of prime rate, 2-3%. Anyway, there is a model out there that looks like that.
I think that'd be a good middle ground. I think that alleviates some of the stress of that happening to people who can't afford it. Alleviating the community for having to pay more than they would necessarily need to, and just keep things equitable and all across the board.
But again, it's infrastructure in the cities right away, under city streets. And I guess to me, that signals city responsibility. I think one of the things that we overlook in the downtown businesses is it's easy to say, oh, don't buy this building, it's never been a restaurant. But our downtown needs restaurants. I mean, it really needs restaurants. And I think that we're being short-sighted to think that just because, and I also think about the last water main break where it broke out of Donlin, but then affected, if I remember right, Coriana? I don't remember how this all went. But it wasn't even, some people had to replace, I don't remember, so I shouldn't even speak, but it just seemed like it was arbitrary in terms of who was going to have to pay what amount for this particular break. I guess I don't understand why not get some numbers. Like, if other communities are figuring this out, Independence, that's a smaller community than us, we have a mechanism to help people pay this. It's not as if we're looking, this would be essentially paying for the water infrastructure that we just said we should pay for what people use, or use your fees. But I guess I don't understand the harm in figuring out what would this actually potentially cost us in terms of user fees, as opposed to just saying, not looking into it at all, I guess. I don't know.
I got a
counting
question.
Brent, Emily, and Cody is sort of saying, hey, let's get numbers. And I'm
Christopher's
curious
on the
about
same
Christopher,
boat.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks, I was gonna say that.
I'm curious
Sorry
about
about
him. It's his ward too that's kind of being affected right now, so.
So obviously, I've had a lot of outreach from business owners in regards to this particular issue. Personally, I see the point of Johanna and Randy. There are a lot of irons in the fire. We've had staff come to us directly and say that we have a lot going on right now, and we'd appreciate you being cognizant of that. I'm not against the conceptual. I think it's a great idea. I think we just need to be concrete on where we fit it into the plan with where we're at right now, especially being cognizant of that staff time, because we have had them come to us explicitly and say there are a lot of things going on right now. And I think, to the point, if we can get some of those across the finish line, and I'm not saying like curtail this, long down the road, but I think we also need to be cognizant of that, because that has been something that's been brought to our attention. In relation, how I started out, like I said, I've had a lot of business owners reach out in regards to this since I've gotten on council. I'm not against the idea. I just think we need to make sure we time it right and make sure that the workload is equitably split up between how we're going to do that.
Could we, I mean, we're already talking about doing water rate studies. I guess that's why I think why would we turn around and do it again? So if we're already looking at what we're going to set our rates at in the next year, why don't we add this as a component of that potential rate increase? I do think, and I want to be clear, I'm also thinking about residents who were faced with a $20,000 bill because their water main wasn't in the center of the street. So they had to then carry the infrastructure for almost the width of the street. So I'm not just thinking about downtown businesses. I am actually thinking of a homeowner who lives paycheck to paycheck who was faced with a $20,000 repair to their water infrastructure because I think we had to rip up that street twice and they had to pay for that. And that breaks my heart. As much as the downtown businesses, and I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's equitable, and I'd rather live in a community where we recognize street infrastructure as community infrastructure. And I am very cognizant of staff time. But this is something that we've already prioritized water rate studies, and to me, this is part of that work. And so I would like to see us at least get some numbers on what this would do to our water rates.
So I guess my question back to Travis, I know you said Independence just implemented this model. Are there cities that have had this in place longer than them that we could have a comparable information from?
Yeah, there are others that have had this type of setup longer term. Who they are exactly and which would be comparable to Decorah, I can't name right at this time. That could be we'll call it a light way. The hard part is Decorah is very unique in our water system operation, where we do have fairly decent water in our watershed. So the rest of the state of Iowa has to lime soften plants and reverse osmosis plants. Oh, just threw up a little bit. Those are costs that we don't have and we don't want to have. So if I could get the specific enough data from them on how they're coding, we'll call them service repairs, surface replacements, things like that, we could use that as a really quick and dirty, hey, this is going to cost roughly this amount per year based on other communities. But that would again be reliant that they are coding those expenses specific enough that they can easily pull that information out.
Okay. I think Emily, I'm not hearing that people aren't necessarily concerned or don't want to move forward. I think they're just saying the time maybe isn't right at the moment.
I heard Emily say that, she was open to it being part of a discussion in a future rate study, and I think Johanna said something similar. I'd be open to that, but we're not doing a rate study this year. I don't think so. So I agree with that. I'd like to see this taken up then, but I want to know what the real cost would be.
Sure.
And the other thing that we haven't mentioned at all is the legislative environment that we're in, and like when they're done with property taxes, I bet the next thing that Des Moines looks at is like, hey, this is the most that you can charge for 1,000 cubic feet of water, regardless of the fact that some cities are not covering this and some are. It's like like pay more, you get more, but then when they start crimping our ability to collect what it costs to provide these things, well, are we gonna have to roll this back in? I just want to be methodical about it, and I don't see us doing it really soon. Sorry about raising the specter of the state changing.
No, I think it's a
Last year they introduced 2 or 3 utility rate caps of 2% rate increase per year on cities. It didn't advance out of those were both done by Webster, I think. So I don't think either advanced out of the Senate side, but they were proposing a 2% rate cap.
Well, then to Emily's point, maybe now's the time to do it before they get around to that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I do it. There is a certain amount of this is what we're doing.
Need to let you talk more.
All right, is it fair to move forward?
There's one thing I'd like to take the opportunity to add. I know that we're going long and I don't want to push it too much, but we are on the topic of billing. And I mentioned it to you, Carrie, a while back. I don't know if you remember or not, but I was wondering if there was a potential to offer like the co-op asks you if you want to round up to the next dollar on your bill. Like if that was an opportunity that we could do a roundup, or even opportunity for maybe the more affluent people to voluntarily choose to give like another $10 or $20, or just round up to the next dollar, just in terms of fundraising. I feel like that could be an opportunity to, maybe there'd be a few buckets that you could contribute to, maybe like a child care or a local arts, things like that don't typically get funding, that we could use this as an opportunity to do some fundraising for things like that. Is that something that could be possible at all?
System-wise, I think it could be possible. I would question
legality behind it.
First thing that comes to mind is you got to open it up to everybody.
Right.
And does the city want to do that? Because you might not want to be associated with people that ask to be part of a program like that.
Could it be for a program, sorry.
Can you elaborate on
Well,
that a little
so are you saying it goes to a nonprofit?
Yeah, in my mind, it's like a voluntary thing you could sign up for, and you'd have like 3 different options that you could check the box of where you would want it to go.
Yeah, but what are those options? And who decides what those options are?
Right.
Yeah. Haven't thought that far ahead. I think, like, in my mind, it's like places like Art House, like a community arts center, nonprofit, or
I'm thinking
Sunflower childcare, things like that.
I'm thinking flag policy when you say this.
You are.
Yeah, and
I mean, it just opens up a whole can of worms about who you select to put on there and the people that don't get to be on that list.
Yeah. What about just a broad?
pitch the idea.
Yeah. Okay.
I love the idea, actually. Could it be for water bill support?
Oh,
For-
if it's something for the city internal,
Could it be for people who
Park Rec?
have experienced job loss or lost a loved one or things that we would have the ability to do some water forgiveness or help people with their bills? You could apply to get help if you needed this, if people wanted. So I mean, other utilities do that.
If you came up with
Energy, gas.
like a classification of just for example, people over 65,
I
Something
think
like
if this is something you all want to talk about, let's put it on a future
Yeah,
agenda.
let's do.
Because I can come having thought about it a little more ahead of time.
Yeah, I just wanted to
I also-
jump in since we're talking about it. But
I
I
think
like
it's
the
worth
idea a
discussion.
lot.
Yeah.
I think if we were really thinking specific about what it could be.
yeah.
All right, can we move on to item 20? Can we? Moving on to item 20, board and commission vacancies. We still have 2 on. We have another one now on sustainability. So if you know anyone interested, please reach out. Also, we have one on tree board after we just filled it to 9 and got dialed back to 8. So any other matters? Seeing none, hearing none. Motion to adjourn. Thank you.